Good morning. Thanks for your patience. I'm Angie Bernardi, and I'm honored to be the president of Women's Society. I want to thank you all for joining us today and also our friends online. Welcome to the kickoff of our season featuring Dr. Ruppert-Stroescu. Today's lecture, Fashion and Sustainability, is the first in our 38th lecture series featuring prominent Washington University professors. Women's Society was founded 58 years ago to bring the community to the university and the university to the community. In addition to sponsoring this lecture series, our members continue to make an impact for our WashU students, funding scholarships, leadership awards, grants, and student-led projects each year. Our newest scholar is Maggie Michael, and she is with us here today. She begins her studies at WashU Fashion Department this semester. So I want to welcome Maggie. I should make you come up here so they can see you, but maybe we'll do that at the end. Okay. The Women's Society also oversees Bare Necessities Shop with all the proceeds supporting our scholars. This year, Women's Society and Bare Necessities were the exclusive seller of flowers and gifts at commencement. I want to personally thank every member who volunteered and made purchases to support this new partnership. We made sales of over $65,000 that weekend. So thank you all for your effort. At Women's Society members, we enjoy opportunities together throughout the year, and by joining us here today, you are all sharing in Chancellor Martin's vision of our university to be not just in St. Louis, but also for St. Louis. We invite all our guests to join Women's Society with an annual or life membership, and new this year for our online friends, a national virtual membership. So please visit our website, Facebook, or new Instagram page. Now, this promises to be an exciting year for the Women's Society. In addition to new social events and, of course, our lecture series, we have another surprise for you today. In the spirit of bringing the community to our university, I'm very pleased to invite Dan Kramer, one of our prominent community members in St. Louis, to join me here to share a very special announcement.
Good morning, everyone. I'm thrilled to be able to join you this morning and to be able to announce a very special opportunity for the St. Louis community and for the Women's Society in partnership to host a personal appearance by the Veronicas of Veronica Beer. Wow. So they have really come on the scene in the last few years, and they are the top performing contemporary brand within all of Neiman Marcus, and number one for me as well in Frontenac, and our number two total ready-to-wear brand. So it's very exciting to have this opportunity to have them here and do a personal appearance. They only do 2 a season, and because of they have a little connection with WashU where 2 of their designers are graduates of the Sam Fox School of Design. So we love the fact that they have that connection, and also in partnership with their shoes are made by Caleres as well, so right here in St. Louis. So we're very excited to be able to host an event on Tuesday evening, October 3rd.
Thank you, Dan. I just want to say that we're very excited about our amazing partnership. We usually kick off with the fashion show for Women's Society that Neiman Marcus hosts, but this year this will be even bigger and even better and even more exciting. So I want to thank Dan for including Women's Society and Washington University in this project, and we hope to see you all there October 3rd. And of course, I have to give him a gift from Bare Necessity.
Actually, we'll have a fashion show and we'll have a moderator, which Mary is going to be able to moderate that for us as well. So, total WashU connection here. So we're excited about that. So, all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan. Nice to run. Thanks for joining us today. We're very excited, so keep an eye on your email, Facebook, and Instagram. And now it's my pleasure to turn things over to our Chair of Education, Aixa Martinez, who has put together a fabulous lineup of lectures for us this year. And she will introduce our speaker, Aixa.
Thank you, Angie, and good morning to all of you joining us today. I am Aixa Martinez, and I am pleased to introduce today's speaker, Mary Ruppert-Stroescu. Professor Ruppert-Stroescu earned a PhD in Human Environmental Sciences from the University of Missouri. Her dissertation research resulted in the piece Typology for Creativity in Fashion Design and Development, a framework for understanding diverse aspects of creativity for fashion design. She cultivates creativity by stimulating the learning process through a student-centered system that supports different learning styles, continuously challenging students to increase knowledge and develop independent critical thinking. Her professional network includes successful former students in fashion industry positions around the world. Dr. Ruppert-Stroescu is passionate about harnessing the power of textiles and clothing to improve lives, specifically engaging technological advancements such as smart and conductive textiles to improve health and well-being. She has worked in teams on such diverse fields as apparel design, biomedical sciences, physiology, mechanical, electrical, and computer engineering, and data mining. She has helped develop working prototypes that combine materials and electronics to gather biometric signals that wirelessly transmit data to a computer so medical quality signals can be processed and analyzed. Her research includes analyzing the clothing behaviors of women over age 65 in order to develop a hip protector holder that garnered positive responses in user tests. She has worked with mechanical engineers to develop impact diffusing material that protects the hip when a fall occurs. During the COVID-19 pandemic, she was an active contributing member of the Washington University and BJC Healthcare PPE Task Force, helping design efficient and effective masks and gowns. She has numerous peer-reviewed publications, has given research presentations, and exhibited her creative scholarship at conferences internationally. She holds intellectual property protection for 4 inventions, including a patent for textile repurposing and sustainable garment design. Her service learning work has been recognized twice by Oklahoma State University. She was also recognized as the Spear School of Business Riata Entrepreneurship Fellowship of the Year and received WashU's 2022 Advisor of the Year Award. Washington University is fortunate to benefit from her expertise, and we are grateful to have her with us today. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Ruppert-Stroescu.
I'm very humbled and very happy to be here. Before I start my talk, I must say that the Advisor of the Year Award was the year that I advised a student group to design and make special occasion wear for youth with disabilities. And the Women's Society grants helped very much to support that effort. So thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so fashion and sustainability, solutions we can live with. I am wearing a jacket that is 130 years old. It's from the 1890s. And I want you to tell me in the audience who's wearing something that is 5 years, up to 5 years old. Anyone? Yeah? Awesome. Who's wearing something that's up to 10 years old? Great. 20? A few? Awesome. I'm very proud of all of you. I think you'll be able to see in my talk today that sustainable fashion doesn't mean that we don't love clothes. It doesn't mean that we can't enjoy the clothes that we wear. But I hope that you'll walk away with some ideas about ways that you can be more mindful and more careful with the way that we make our choices so that we can not be so wasteful. Let me see how. So think about it. Where will the clothes you're wearing be in the year 2153, like my jacket? Right? Maybe it doesn't matter because globally, last year, 193 pieces of clothing were manufactured per capita. And clothing production is the third largest manufacturing industry after the automotive and technology industries. But what if it does matter? The UN Environmental Program tells us that textile and apparel industries produce 10% of global greenhouse emissions, exceeding that of aviation and shipping combined. Textile waste in landfills averages over 70 pounds per person, and globally, we see 13 million metric tons of textile waste per year. That's a lot of waste. And a lot of it is non-biodegradable, so it just sits in landfills for anywhere, like polyester takes anywhere from 20 to 200 years to biodegrade. At the same time, though, fashion is good for us. Fashion is essential to human behavior. The positive effects of self-expression through clothes are well documented. Who feels good when wearing a favorite outfit? Right? We love wearing our favorite outfits. So we can't lose that. We want to really address that positive-negative fashion paradox. Because fashion is also an important economic driver. The U.S. Joint Economic Committee tells us that fashion is a $2.5 trillion global industry. $2.5 billion. $1 trillion around the world. And in the U.S. alone, consumers spend nearly $380 billion on apparel and footwear in the year 2017. So when you think about the fashion industry, which encompasses everything from textiles and apparel brands to wholesalers, importers, retailers, farmers, and everyone in between, it employs more than 1.8 million people in the United States alone. Like you think, oh, textiles and fashion is dead in America, but it's not. And so this important economic driver needs to stay alive. So we can't just throw, as I said to my students, and they didn't quite understand what I meant, we can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater in saying that, we have to not love clothes if we're going to be sustainable. So fashion is essential to human behavior also because it's one of the characteristics that distinguishes humans from animals, except for when we dress up our kitties. So here's just a little visualization about the fashion waste. I had to write out these numbers in words because they're so big I couldn't just look at all of them. So 19 billion pieces of clothing were produced in the U.S. in 2017. In order to address this negative-positive paradox, I don't know about you, but I get sometimes really overwhelmed and I hyperventilate. How in the world can I help? And, we really have to figure out a way that we're not causing the Earth's resources to be depleted and shortening our time that our descendants can live comfortably here on Earth. One of the measurements that really hit home for me a few years ago when Chandru Wadrani gave a talk at a sustainable fashion conference in South Africa was Earth Overshoot Day. I hadn't heard about this before, but it is the day that is computed by dividing the planet's biocapacity, or the amount of ecological resources the Earth is able to generate in a year, by humanity's ecological footprint, or humanity's demand for that year, and multiplying that by 365. So that gives us the remainder of the year is global overshoot. And today, Global Overshoot Day was August 2nd. So right now, we are consuming resources we don't have. And we would need 1.7 Earths to exist to be able to consume all the resources that we are currently consuming. So it's a real thing, and it's a really big deal. But like I said, let's not get discouraged and think the problem is so big, how can little old me have any kind of an impact? And as my family will tell you, sometimes to the point of being annoyed, I'm a cup half full kind of girl. So I believe that each one of us can make a difference. Recently, a long-term friend of mine who was in a gas explosion in Paris, and he burned 85% of his body. And he was 75 years old, or he is 75 years old, and he is still thriving. And when we finally got to the point where they could put a microphone on the tube in his throat, the first thing he asked was, how many more operations do I have to do? And he only had one. And the second thing he said was, if we focus, we will achieve. And I'm just like, I want to share that with you because it's so impactful to me that this man in his, the depth of the despair and the pain and physical and mental anguish, he is really an inspiration. So my focus is in the sustainability paradigm is to reduce waste. And if we reduce waste, we'll reduce greenhouse emissions and the non-biodegradable landfills, because waste really impacts so many different aspects. The consumption of energy and natural resources, fossil fuel use, water use, pollution. We can do so much if we just reduce the waste. Because my lifelong calling has been with fashion, and textiles and clothing, I'm focusing on textile waste. And I want to talk a minute about the term fashion. Who here enjoys shopping? A few of us, yeah? And putting outfits together, or just dressing up for something special, right? So I do too. And so we have to address this negative positive paradox and shift the way that we design, make, and consume fashion while keeping the joy and the creative expression and economic richness that we have come to know and appreciate as the fashion system. So let me tell you a story of how breaking a $150,000 machine led to the present, led to a patent that offers a new option for this circular economy. You know, that economy where clothing stays around for 130 years. And so my goal is to shed new light on this fashion industry and to inspire stakeholders like us and manufacturers and designers and everything to challenge the status quo with style. And so while contemplating ways to give value to textile waste with my students, cutting the discarded clothing took a long time to get into usable textiles. So, being a technology kind of geek, I used the sample cutter at the university, and this was the $150,000 automated sample cutting machine. And need I admit that on the first try, we broke the cutting table and misaligned it so badly that I was forbidden from using it ever again. But I didn't give up, and I persevered, and my patent for textile repurposing and sustainable garment design was approved in 2017. With my then student collaborators, we coined the term reclaim, and it stands for, it's spelled so weird, and the E is like an accent aigu, because it represents Clarissa, Lene, Elizabeth, and Mary. Those are my 3 student collaborators that we worked with, and they're named on the patent as well. And so, just because of the importance of working with textile waste and going back to my origins, my Depression-era parents we grew up with the mantra of waste not, want not. I mean, my dad, when he was a farmer and he ended up with a lot of land, so he ended up with, millions of dollars at his death. But if he saw a jelly jar on the counter that still had dried jelly in it, he would get mad at you if you threw it away. You had to put milk in it, shake it up, and drink the flavored milk. That's how deeply ingrained waste not, want not was in their whole ethos. But, if they were around today, they'd be super sustainable people, but, not because of saving the planet, just because they learned to do it because of lack of means. So my mission with Reclaim is to reduce textile waste. And I have a vision where I'll be able to educate designers about the ecological advantage and creative potential of this new way of making clothes. And I want to demonstrate that this new way of upcycling clothing is an eco-effective alternative to regular apparel manufacturing, standard apparel manufacturing. And eco-effective in this sense means that you can still make money, you can still have fun, and you can still enjoy it, but it is good for our planet, and it's preserving the planet for future generations. And I was thinking, how can I do this? And I showed my deck, to different people. I said, you need an action item. So my main goal is to persuade 5% of the companies of Fashion United's big apparel companies in the United States to at least adapt some portion of this system. And like a patent, it sounds all great and jazzy, but if no one uses it and shows the viability of it, it just sits over there on Google Patent or wherever, and in 20 years it goes away and nobody really cares about it. So I have had the great fortune to become a designer in residence at Stars Design Group here in St. Louis, and they're housing my incubator, if you will, for this process. And I'm getting ready to launch a website on Shopify and try to, really make it happen. And I have a bunch of samples up here that I'd be happy to show you at the end of the lecture. So these are like the main points of what I do. But rather than talking, I thought I would show. This is new to me, so hold on. So I'm going to do a little video, show you a little video that Washi put together for
Right behind me down this street are some of the roughest conditions people can find themselves in. Many without food, water.
And now, okay, not too bad. Okay, so that kind of gave you a little bit of an idea. So it's not, just taking scraps and making them into new things, although I was recommended to do some yardage, so I do have some yardage that I did with some leftover linen here and things like that. But it's the idea is that you lay down the materials inside of the pattern shape, so you don't have to cut it out and throw waste away. And it's a very research-based process. We did all kinds of textile tests and things like that. And so it's, it's an idea that I hope that you will be able to help me, visualize as something that people really believe in. Another project of mine was the fashion detox. And it's an approach to the circular economy from a different direction. With colleagues, we developed this sort of an intermittent fasting for fashion. We're being cut off from getting new clothes, fuels interest in the clothes we already own. And with my interest in creativity, the resulting paper, Creativity and Sustainable Fashion Apparel Consumption, Fashion Detox, really inspired the University of Glasgow in Scotland to develop a detox movement. And they have a website. And then as a next step from that, the United Nations recognized the fashion detox as one of the Sustainable Development Goals good practices. So that's just kind of another way that you can take an approach to trying to make a bigger impact. And basically, these students, fashion students, mind you, had to abstain from consuming fashion for 10 weeks. And they blogged about it. And it was really interesting how they were like, oh yeah, I have this outfit in my closet, and I only ever wore the top with the bottom because that's the way I bought it. But with this, I had to think, what could I put that bottom with that's different than what I bought it with? And so it really pushed people to be creative. And so I'm really honored to be able to share some of my projects with you. And taking these ideas to action has been a tough path. And actually, there's a pronounced difficulty with reducing textile waste in that many approaches belong to the category of wicked problems. Wicked problems are solutions to problems that create more problems. So to understand the idea of wicked problems, let's think about a drop of water. In general, drops of water give life, right, in moderation. But when millions of drops of water fall on a dirt road and make gullies in a torrent, then when that road dries, it's hard to drive across. And millions more drops of water create something like the Grand Canyon, right? So a drop of water is good, but too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. And that's kind of the way some of these wicked problems I'm going to talk to you about in fashion are. So let's think about the idea of, you might have heard of the movement to transform plastic bottles into clothing. And it's really compelling when you think about all these plastic bottles floating around in the ocean. Oh my gosh, let's get them out of there. And I'm going to wear this polar fleece that has recycled polyester. But unfortunately, that new material sheds microplastics, these tiny, tiny little microscopic polymers that end up back in the ocean anyway. So it's a temporary fix, but it's not something that is long-term fixable. The Ocean Clean Wash campaign notes that 35% of primary microplastics in the ocean come solely from laundering synthetic textiles. And, we got to be cup half full, so all is not lost, because we can put microfiber filters in our washing machines, much like the catalytic converter in our cars. But we all have washing machines that maybe we've had for 10, 15 years, and people are not going to just go out and get new ones. But maybe if in the long term we could create some legislation that would require, just like our cars are required, that would require washing machines to be manufactured with this filter, then in the future we would have less of these microbeads in our oceans. So, the other thing is that another wicked problem that we were actually talking about at the beginning of the lecture a little bit relates to donating unwanted clothing. The traditional definition of fashion implies change, right? And by the 2000s, the industry really embraced that change to the tune of 4 to 5 new collections a year. And in the late 20-teens, the media brought the term fast fashion to our vernacular. And consumers became really used to buying a lot of pieces for a little money And these inexpensive, trendy textile items were engineered for a short life, so even if you didn't want new ones, they would get a hole or come apart or something, and you'd have to get a new one. And so a lot of people have a lot of clothes that they couldn't wear anymore or didn't want to wear anymore. And so to avoid tossing those textiles in the trash, many of us gather bags of unwanted clothing and we donate them to a secondhand store. And we're like, well, at least we're not contributing to the landfill. But here, there is value in that approach for sure. But the wickedness of that solution is that the quality of these fast fashion items especially is much lower, and therefore they are often quickly damaged beyond use. So the items that these donation centers get that they can't resell locally or that are too damaged to even be considered are put into bales, and a lot of times they arrive in developing countries. And one might think that is a nice way to help, right? But it's actually a wicked action. In this wicked action, what happens is that the manufacture of textile products has proven to be an effective industry to raise developing economies. It's low investment. You don't have to have a high education to learn how to work in a factory. And if you think about the America in the beginning of the 20th century, or even Japan and Germany after World War II, if you look at clothes from the 60s and even the 70s, you'll find made in Germany or made in Japan. We don't see that anymore because now Germany and Japan's economies are so high, they make automobiles and technology and things like that. But it started with the textile industry. So when we send all of our old unwanted clothes to developing countries, that suffocates the local textile industry. And countries like Rwanda and Uganda and Tanzania have banned the import of used textiles apparel from the US and the UK to protect their local textile industries. And then the third wicked sustainable fashion problem I want to share relates to the popularity of the concept of vegan leather. Now, buying vegan leather seems to be a good solution to protect animals, but most vegan leather is made from petrochemicals. So that depletes our natural resources, and they can take up to 200 years to biodegrade. So, and the third problem with that is that the petrochemical vinyl, which is basically PVC, which is what replaces leather in these vegan leather products, loses much of the beautiful characteristics of a natural hide, that it doesn't conform to your body, like shoes that are made out of synthetic leather just are not comfortable, but leather ones will take the shape of the foot. So there are advantages to that. And for those who truly suffer from the idea of an animal losing its life to make leather, a WSWU graduate has created a company called Inversa Leather that transforms the skin of invasive species into textiles and so into leather, so that preserves the natural ecosystems and takes away the problems of petrochemical textile waste that products create. Isn't that a cool idea? They have pythons from the Everglades, dragonfin and angelfish from the Mississippi, and all these things that they're turning into leather that is beautiful, but it's also preserving the natural ecosystem. So in conclusion, adopting a sustainable fashion mindset doesn't mean giving up the joy of clothing. I hope that this morning you've become aware of the importance of the fashion industry and that you'll prioritize critical thinking and mindfulness when making purchases of clothing and textile products. We need fashion, yet we must shift the wasteful paradigm and invest in quality products that will give us joy for years to come. As a call to action, I suggest that you advocate so that everyone has to have a filter in their washing machines, a microfiber filter, because polyester is so cheap and so pervasive. It's that 60% of our clothes are made out of polyester. It's not going to change from one day to the next. We just need to find ways to protect ourselves from the bad effects of it. We need to be aware. Don't just jump on a bandwagon that sounds good. Really think about it and look at the solution and be sure that it doesn't create more problems than it solves. And then reduce. Buy quality, buy less, and buy with intent. Thank you.
Thank questions. So if anyone has any questions, and you can go ahead and speak. There's microphones in the ceiling.
You're looking at me? Yeah. If donating to charity for unwanted clothes, I understand that somewhere in St. Louis there's a textile bin or something, or company that collects. Anyway, what would you recommend?
Well, we have two really amazing textile recycling companies here in St. Louis. One is called Riverbend Textiles, and they're the company that has the Found store on Del Mar and Found on South Grand. And so what they do is they take, they even like work with, say, the Barnes Jewish Hospital System and take the worn out sheets and they cut them up and they sell them as mechanics wash rags and things like that. So they really do try to, extend the life of the textiles. And the other one is called Remains, and it's on Morgan Ford. And they even, I visited them just for the first time this summer. They take textiles and they shred them, and one of this beautiful pile of off-white shredded textiles that I want to get, and they're going to give it to me so I can play around with it with my reclaim system. But what they're doing is they're using this to make, like, they look like cosmetic pads, but they're actually for the mice at WSWU research labs for their bedding. And lots of them. I mean, they turn them into tons, really big things of that. So we have a great place here, two great places that really do a lot. Aside from all the secondhand stores that we have a lot of those. And as far as like a specific place to take things to, I'm not really sure. I do know that, the Jewish Women's Resale Store has drop-off, the, Salvation Armies, all those kind of things have drop-offs. So, I think that's the best thing to do. Look for something close in your neighborhood and just do the drop-offs there.
So when I like the idea of refashioning the old stuff into new stuff. Are there stores in the St. Louis area where you could actually take your old stuff and have them come up with a new design for your old stuff? I mean, I don't know of a store that.
I don't know of one either. Does anyone know of one where you can actually do that? I know you do.
At the Leather and Fur Center, they'll redesign that sort of
The
thing.
furs and
I mean,
leathers.
I know furs maybe not, but no, they'll take an old fur coat and make it into something that they'll shear it, make it really useful, because we all know how warm fur is, but many times it's very heavy, cumbersome, maybe, what should I say, over glamorous, like, something. They'll make it into something useful, a vest or something like that. I mean,
Right,
you
and
pay for
actually,
that.
one of our alumni, one of our May graduates from the WSU program, actually two of the May graduates from the WSU fashion program, have created a company they call Mend. And it's not, a part of what they do is like refashioning, but it's also just to help people like do a hem or sew on a button or, close up a hole or embroidery over a stain you can't get out or things like that. So I think we're going to be seeing more and more of that. But I think one of the issues, if you will, is that we've lost the habit of being willing to pay for such services or even for good quality clothes, because clothes, like a $3 t-shirt, why would you pay like somebody, if it would take them a half an hour, they would need to have at least $10. Why would you pay $10 to repair a $3 t-shirt, So there's this like kind of weird mix-up thing that's going on.
Yeah,
Did you have a comment at the beginning? No? Yeah?
Me?
Yeah.
So if you have this filter in your washing machine, when it filters out these pieces of plastic, what happens to them? I mean, you have to empty them somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't found that out. But
Is that a
wicked, yeah. Those kinds of questions, I call them the WSU why. At WSU, students and audience members challenge me so much more than anywhere else I've actually ever worked. It's great.
I think Anne-Marie, did you have a question?
Sure. One option, many good dry cleaners, many video
mediocre dry cleaners will help you. And I'm just as an example, a few years ago, there were those blouses that had really big sleeves. And they were really cute. And then 2 years later, you didn't want to have big sleeves anymore. I did it myself. I just took that off, finished the edge. I put a little edging on it to finish it. But I know a friend did it, and she said, I just took it to the dry cleaner and they took off my sleeves. They actually even used some of the material and put a nice little collar on it because it was a plain neck. So your dry cleaner, and they're pretty reasonable. You do have to pay. You wouldn't pay if the blouse was a $12 blouse, but if you've got an $80 blouse, having it still live because you got rid of the thing that's no longer stylish. So dry cleaners, if you find a good one, they're good.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point, that if you invest in quality fabric, you invest in quality construction, you can adapt it for styles and style it so that it can be valid in your wardrobe for many, many years. Yeah. Laura, you had something.
If I can add, there are also bags out there. I think it's called Guppy. I want to fact check that. They're also, instead of the filter in your machine, there are these own bags that you can put things in and dry them in, which help. Jewelers are another place that are doing a lot of this refashioning as well. So, and they're really leaning into this conversation right now. I mean, it's good business all around, but if you have pieces in your cabinets or drawers or safes or wherever you put your jewelry, they're encouraging a lot of people to bring it out and just sort of refashion it as well. To add to that, and then I have a question. I think to your point, Mary, you make a great point about the value of the cost of services, which is what I'm educating people on in my business often. I'm a personal stylist, and so how can you take something in your closet and understand, is it worth it? And it is worth it just to go and at least have a conversation with a dry cleaner or a tailor to say, is this something that I want to spend? And everyone has their own range of comfort in that. So do you want to spend $10 to take a sleeve off? Do you want to spend $80 to completely refit, a leather jacket that can be refit to you if you'd like to wear it? But so for what it's worth. My question, though, has a lot to do with analyzing alternative materials in the production of leather, and if you have thoughts in particular around what Hermes is doing, and even Stella McCartney with these mushroom farms, and how they're producing leather for the future.
Yeah, they're growing from mycelium and things like that, and I had a student work with cactus leather and this type of stuff, and those are great because they're renewable, right? And there was also a company out of like Holland that made leather out of mango, but those fabrics, those materials, as far as I have seen, and I haven't seen everything, they're more like cardboard than leather. Like they don't have that pliability. They don't have that beautiful ability to be structured in a way that and the longevity that leather can have. I mean, if you have a leather handbag from 100 years ago, it could still very much be viable. The stitching might be gone on it because maybe it was done with cotton, but the leather is something that lasts forever and ever. So I'm excited, very excited about those options. And, I've had students grow from the SCOBY to grow the biodegradable material that makes like a material from the kombucha SCOBY. But there's still, we have a lot more to do, a lot more research and development.
So let's go back to, in your introduction, we heard that you work with clothing for women over 65.
Yes. Yeah, that could be a whole nother talk.
Yes, I realize that. But if you could give us a synopsis of what you're doing there, and then we'll have you back another day.
Yeah, sure. And, I got into that whole, it's so funny how, you think, oh, I'm going to grow up and go away from what my parents are into. But I got into both of these areas really very much because of my parents. When my parents' health started failing, they both passed now. But my mom had osteoporosis, and my dad was in hospitals and things. And I got to thinking, how can textiles help health and well-being? And so my first real research position, they gave me startup funds and they connected me with a doctor an engineer who were trying to make an EKG shirt. And they were like just taking t-shirts and cutting holes out of it and sticking stuff in it. And I was like, hey, we can make something like specifically for this purpose. And so we made a shirt that was for in-home sleep apnea testing, and we got SpO2, blood oxygen, respiration, and pulse with this shirt. And then that led me to thinking once again about getting older, and now I have osteoporosis. So it's a selfish thing. Because the number one cause of death really after you fall is, it can lead to a downward spiral. So I found a study that said they did a longitudinal study over 4 years of a nursing home in Holland, that in the Netherlands, that they gave hip protectors to people, and the people who would wear them, it helped them to not break when they fell. But the problem was compliance. Nobody wanted to wear this big, heavy thing that was really tight on the body, and so I went out in the four corners of Oklahoma and interviewed groups of women over 60, and to just kind of understand their clothing behaviors. Because, for me, I thought, well, and the products that are out there are underwear. Well, I had some kind of embarrassing conversations where everybody doesn't wear underwear all the time. And so it made me kind of think, well, what else could, how else could you make a product that would be, protect your hips? And then I got into anatomy and like what parts of the bones, and it's just such a complex issue. And so then I had a grad student, and he made a hip protection holder that is more kind of like a harness, if you will, than like you can wear your regular clothes or not underneath it. We tested it in overnight tests, and women really found it comfortable. They found it enjoyable to, not a problem to be wearing. And so then I had this other group of engineers that I was like, we need to make things that are not bulky, because a lot of the pads are like this thick. And actually, when they tested the pads, when you had the impact would go like this, it would go just straight through the pad. It would be a little bit less, but it would go straight through, so you would still get an impact. And so they're working with this auxetic material that is a structure that absorbs and diffuses the impact all around the pad, so when it gets to the skin, it won't hit and it won't hurt, and hopefully it'll be able to be flat enough that we won't feel too terribly puffy.
That sounds good. We might want to order some of those. Mary.
I'll ask you guys to be test models for my new version.
Did you have a question?
I had a couple of questions. One is, I'd like to know the fabric in your beautiful jacket. I'm just curious, how old did you say it was?
130 years.
Is it leather?
No, it is a rough hewn wool. Like, touch it. It's a really strong wool. It's very comfortable. Yeah, I don't go outside of it. I know, right? And it's very interesting because it's lined with like a cotton sateen. The only things I had to do with it when I found it, I added this velvet here because it was a little worn here, and it was a little worn around the collar. And I couldn't believe that fit me. It's usually things
My
very
second
small.
question has to do with when you were showing the film of the production, where with the strips, and it seems so labor intensive.
Yes.
How would one mass produce that? I mean, is there something I missed in that?
No, that's where I'm still
It's almost
researching.
like each piece is an individual piece of art, really.
Well, it is and it isn't, because I can reproduce. I have like that green dress over there. I have a purple one and I have a blue one. So you can reproduce, and you can produce it in different sizes. But my glitch is in two spots. One is in the cutting, because cutting the strips, and I tried to do with bigger chunks of t-shirts. Old t-shirts have pilling and stuff like that, and the bigger, when you cut it up small, like my pants are t-shirts. And if you look at this, it kind of like, I don't know, looks like this rich Japanese kind of material. But if I had bigger chunks, you'd see the pilling and you'd see the defects of the fabric. So I need to cut them small enough so you don't see the defects. So the cutting is an issue, and then the laying is an issue. And I have a wonderful professor over in the mechanical engineering department who he does for the senior thesis classes. He has a list of projects, and for 3 years running, I've had students choose my challenges to try to help me find a solution. 2 years they did the cutting, and then last year they did the laying. And I've had this vision for a long time of like a box cutter where you just have the roll of fabric and then just lay it down. And they made me one. They 3D printed and everything else. And I have a vision where on that sample cutter, that I broke, that machine, it's run by a computer, and it has a head that goes around and cuts. And so I have a vision to have the same kind of a system that you design the thing on the computer, you decide where the lines are, because you can actually engineer in the designing. Like the lattice work and stuff on there, it's not a separate piece sewn in, it was all laid out like that. And so you do that on the computer, and then you have a program that sends it to this laying machine, automated laying machine. It would have rolls with different colors, and it would just pop down the right color and all be automated. But I have to get a big grant to do that.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one
I
more
was just
question.
curious about the story of your boat, and then where does it come from? And then what's your favorite secondhand here in the Somers area, if you have one?
Yeah, my coat actually came from a thrift store here in Missouri somewhere. Like I said, I just saw it, and knowing fashion history, I know with these kinds of sleeves and this kind of detailing, it's from the 1890s, and then it fit me. And actually, I'll tell you a funny story. I wore it. I worked in the Boston area for several years, and I wore it to the Peabody Essex. No, this was the Lowell Textile Museum, which has since been closed. We did a project with them, and I wore this jacket. And I have a friend who's a fashion historian, and she, it's horrible to touch old clothes, let alone wear them, right? And so I went up to the curator, and I said, look, as I was driving there, I thought, oh, it's really cool, I'm gonna wear my old piece. And then I thought, oh my gosh, she's probably gonna think I'm awful because I'm wearing an old piece. And I apologized to her, and she said, Mary, everything isn't made for a museum. It's okay if you want to just have it and do it, that's fine. So I have her blessing. My favorite store here is actually the Jewish Women's Resale Store. I've gotten so many. I bought a pair of Yves Saint Laurent wool pants. Once again, at Pitney, which is not always easy, for $1. It was on the dollar rack. And they have just beautiful things.
What's the name? It's the resale shop.
Just the resale shop. Yes, the resale shop. It's on Lindbergh. There's a Joseph A. Banks beside it there. Yeah, it's a wonderful place.
Shame with the scholarship.
I guess we have one more question. Yes, go ahead.
I'm troubled by the fast fashion industry and what solutions, because you have a young mother with 3 kids and no money, and what will she do but buy what is cheapest? And then on the other end, you have this economy that is supporting all of these people who are actually making the clothing, and that, granted, it's not good because they're not making enough. But do you have any solutions on how to make a dent in that process?
Yeah, I wish I did. It is. It's overwhelming. The thing about, and I agree with everything you said about the good and aspects of having inexpensive clothing, and about how like I said, this is an industry that helps to get developing people to rise above their poverty levels. But I think the thing is as consumers, what we need to do is send the message to the manufacturers that we are willing to pay, and we need to learn what's worth paying and what's not worth paying. Is you can have items that are like $100, and you look at them and they're not well made, and they're not good fabric. So you need to learn how to buy good things. But especially, I know children grow fast, but children also are very hard on clothes, and you have to wash them a lot. So if you buy really cheap things, they probably wear out quite quickly. It seems on the moment, there's this thing of cost per wear. If you just think about the cost per wear, I had actually a slide that I didn't put in that I had found that the number of times that we use and wear our clothes from even 2000 to 2015. In 2000, it was something like maybe 45 times, and in 2015, the average is like 15 times. So people just don't understand how to care for their clothes, they don't understand how to buy quality, and they don't understand that it's better to buy one $50 well-made thing than five $10 things that are not going to last. So I think education is a big deal. And as consumers that we, because it's all driven by corporate profit, right? So if these fast fashion companies are making a lot of money, then they're going to keep doing what they're doing. It's hard to get them to change the status quo.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it seems all the young people in my family and their friends are avid thrifters. I mean, It's like a trend now, which you must see as positive.
White luxury maybe will help people get more conscious about it.
How about our scholarship recipient? Do you like vintage and secondhand?
I would like you to come up, Maggie, and show everyone what you're wearing.
Yeah, let's hear your story. Tell us the
So
story about it.
our people online can see Maggie as well, because I love what you said about it's all about education, because it's our education series here at WSWU, and we love to bring the community. So here, look, I'll put you right here in the middle.
What it is.
We can see you.
Maybe walk a little.
I love this to the screen.
Oh no, back.
Oh, back.
Let's see. We're looking at the screen here. So yeah, it's so cool.
I bought this skirt online after I researched the designer a little bit. It was a skirt that just kind of stuck out to me. It was like more on the pricey side, but I knew I was gonna like wear it more often than something. And yeah, it's got these pockets here, and then detachable pockets in the back. And I don't know.
And that's a good point. I think too, a lot of times, okay, so there are two sides to that story too, because I have had student groups that I talk to, they're like, but now that everybody is interested in thrift, is that not outpricing thrift to the disadvantaged people who really need it at the low prices? And in some ways it might be, but there are always still like aspects. I don't know if any of you guys know the Goodwill wholesale place down by IKEA. You can get really interesting things there, and it like sells stuff for $1.60 a pound. And so I think that being able to recognize quality, the design, the materials, everything was what was attractive to you, and you knew that you would have, put value in the wear, so it was okay for you to spend a little bit more to have something that's really special. And I just think it's this mindfulness, this thoughtfulness, this not just grabbing something quick and going forward that we need to really try to promote more.
Can I just say one word about the pocket? So, oh my gosh, so I bought a couple of dresses. I was traveling to Europe this summer, and the two dresses had pockets. And I don't know about you guys, but when I put my hands in the pocket, I just feel so strong. Even my walk changed. I'm just like, so I just want to say to the designers, please put pockets in dresses, especially. So true.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Thank you, Maggie. And thank you, Mary, so much.
All right, so much.
Yeah, we really can't thank you enough, and we have token of our appreciation. It's a sustainable item that you can purchase at Fair Necessity. It's a Women's Society scarf, so we hope you'll wear it well as we coordinate with Neiman Marcus and all throughout the community. And I also just want, oh yes, please put it on. It'll go with your jacket, for sure. And before I leave, I just want to remind you again, October 3rd, Veronica Beard Fashion Show at Neiman Marcus. And there'll be a VIP reception at 5 and a fashion show at 7. You're all invited to bring friends. You'll be getting those invitations soon. And also our Composing a Life will be in collaboration with She Leads on October 20th at the Olin School. And we have another, oh, you look beautiful. You got to show the people online. Come over here, Mary, and see.
It's my first actual WSWU spirit wear.
All right. And I can attest to the fact that I have one, and I think my wears probably 100 times since I've been in the Women's Society. So thank you so much. And we'll look forward to seeing you in your scarf all around town. And we'll probably have another announcement in September. I also wanted to let you know there'll be a coffee event for Women's Society as well. So we'll keep putting that on Facebook, Instagram, and our website. We're very excited about that. And we want to thank you all for coming today, and we'll hope to see you soon. Thanks so much.